Hello guys. So this is going to be a continuation of my non-spoiler review of the Dark Dimension Part 2. They're now on YouTube for you all to watch. Because if you were confused last week as to why I got to review something that you guys couldn't watch, is because again, me and George have got we are promoting this Dark Dimension project, so me and George got early access. But again, check it out. You can finally get make sense of what I was going on about last week. But again, before I fully dive in this week, one thing I think I mentioned barely in the last video was the temporal displacer array. That's what I'm calling it. Um, it was used to defeat our creature at the very beginning of the episode. Which again, I couldn't go into the specifics of the locations because it was kind of spoilery, and this is meant to be non-spoiler. So thanks, George. You're making this really hard for me. But this episode, I'm gonna have to explain a little. Well, not say spoil anything, but I'm just gonna have to give you guys a bit more context as to what's going on because, again, part two, it makes a lot more sense to at least have part one viewed. You can't watch part two without part one. That's with everything. So I'm gonna have to explain a bit more this time around. But let's begin with the Cybermen looking as if they were gonna shoot our a motley crew of adventurers. Um, they're not quite in deleting people. They're certainly not exterminating people. So they're just shooting people with their 80s guns. Whatever. um, our heroes use the temporal array to escape from the evil clutches of the Cybermen, and that's that cliffhanger solved. Ta-da! I love the Doctor Who cliffhangers, I really do. But then it cuts to our evil Prime Minister Hawkspur, again talking in his 10 Downing Street evil research bunker thing, making more plans about world domination and spooky stuff. Again, doesn't really get explained, so I can't give you thoughts on that. I'm gonna move this. But then it cuts then to our heroes, McShane. Can't mention that. Well, you know who she is. You're fans after all. You're Whovians, right? Our doctor, who wasn't speaking a lot in the last episode, and you know what? I can't remember his name. It's gone blank. I actually can't remember his name. Fuck it. He's blank. You guys can name it in the comments. It ends up with them sort of discussing what to do next. What they're going to do next, how they're going to stop the Cybermen, all this malarkey, jibber jabber. And it then results in our doctor, because he was previously comatose in episode 1, he was basically misplaced by this temporal array. And as we learn in this episode, there's 3 sort of rifts through time. One in 2025, which is where it's set currently. 1936, which is where our evil Prime Minister villain is. And then in 1999, not quite 2013 though, thank goodness. He wakes up and he's alive all of a sudden. He speaks, but he doesn't give out jelly babies. Yes, this doctor is, he's Tom Baker. He's meant to be Tom Baker. Again, didn't mention that last episode because I totally forgot, but it all came to me just now. So Tom Baker and McShane, who you should know who she is, or he. Shane's a male. He's a male's name, right? Yes, they go walking, talking about the plans and stuff, and kind of what to do next, and figure out what to do. And then they until the Cybermen appear again and decide to attack. But before the Cybermen actually make a move, there's a red circular sphere object that gets thrown at them, and the Cybermen are making a comment on it. And they look in the distance and they detect another bio reading of the Doctor's DNA. And this is my one and only nitpick so far of what's going to happen. But in comes our next incarnation of the Doctor, who, guessing by the red circular sphere, which I'm guessing is a cricket ball, it's meant to be Peter Davison's Doctor. It doesn't sound like him. It feels like he sounds like John Pertwee, because he speaks like this, and he's he doesn't sound out of breath, and he doesn't have Joe or Sarah Jane with him, but he sounds like this throughout the whole episode, so I got really confused. um, yes, so he comes to save the day and sort of stops the Cybermen from attacking them again, and, you know, Peter Davison / Pertwee, Peter Pertwee, I'll call him, the hybrid doctor appears and, you know, takes them away and sort of gets them going and sort of explain, you know, and he basically explains to us, the viewers, what's going on with these rifts. So, like I said, tried to say earlier, there was 3 temporal rifts. One in 2025, which is where they're currently located on this destroyed Earth in the future. The Doctor's meant to be dead. 1936, which where our villain is, and then in 1999. So Davison does explain the situation, and he decides to sort of split the group up. I think it's McShane and one of the other crew members, like research team, because it's Summerfield's there as well, obviously. So it's Ace and one of their members go to 1999. Tom Baker and Summerfield go to 1936, and I think Davison, Pertwee, and the rest are stranded in 2025. But again, that's probably going to be explored in part 3 a bit more. So there's 3 little bits to cover, but I'll end with Davison's run, Pertwee, whatever you want to call him. Leave it in the comments. Just when you hear it, you'll get what I mean. Hopefully, please. I'm not bashing, but it's just my honest faults. He didn't sound like Davison at all. It ends up with Davison's story rather ends up with them again escaping from the Cybermen and actually defeating them, but they again get help from a voice that's apparently very Scottish and very high. All you hear is "Hello, oh Donna," something like "Oh Donna, this one's my favourite," and you just hear "Oh no," against Pertwee, so "Oh no," implying that it's David Tennant. Yeah, David Tennant. He wasn't in the original. Like, okay, the 10th Doctor wasn't made during the production of the original story, but yeah, we're getting David Tennant in this, or the 10th Doctor, I should say. I'm all more for that, and that's how he isn't mentioned. So this is the end of his run. It then cuts to McShane and insert name here. In 1999 is where they're supposedly heading. Except they see a funny headrobe thing that McShane has seen in the Doctor's TARDIS before, and she sort of comments about their funny, peculiar outfits and dodgy clothing. And then they see another person, and another person, and another person. Well, these headrobe things are made from the sashes of Rassilon. I won't say the location because that hopefully will give it away where they are. But basically, it's not 1999. And so they're in 1999. It then cuts to like the next monster of this release, which was meant to be in the the original release rather. I can't get my words out today. It cuts to a trial, what Doctor Who doing Law and Order, like a trial, and all you hear then is "It wasn't me." Wasn't me. And again, you hear another familiar voice, which at the back of my mind, I sort of knew who it was meant to be, but I wasn't too sure because of Davison / Pertwee. I didn't want to be so confident in naming this person in case I was completely wrong and butchered it. So then we have a female woman speaking, like the Inquisitor of the trial, which again is another clue. Doesn't exactly say what this ice warrior is on trial for as such. But he's guilty. And then you hear the voice again, and it's sort of confirmed because she says, "Doctor, what's your verdict?" So this doctor is Colin, and don't worry, this one sounds actually like Colin Baker. So they're sort of reenacting Trial of a Time Lord again, which is cool because it's Trial of a Time Lord. In 1999, that's how it's left for them. So our last bit of the story is back in 1936, where our fourth Doctor, McShane, and the rest of the crew are, I want to say they're underground, like in tunnels, they're underground in tunnels, and they're just trying to avoid what's going on in the streets. Essentially, they go to the end of this tunnel and they see like this big cocoon, this egg, and all of a sudden it hatches. But it's not what hatches; it's who. It's not what. It's not what hatches; it's who that hatches. It ends up being the villain himself, Mr. Shady Prime Minister Harold Saxon knockoff, Mr. Hawkesbury himself. But why? Well, we have to tune into episode 3 to find out. So, again, still kept it a bit vague. I'm looking at the time right now, 11 minutes. A bit longer than the last one. Tried to explain it a bit more than I did last time. I can't really not explain what's going on. I say this is a part 2. This is the middle of a story. I can't exactly not explain things like I did last time. It works as part 1 because it's the beginning, and I've got to keep it as vague to give you guys intrigue. But in this, I kind of had to go in depth a bit more. Anyway, I've tried my best. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe, and get the subscribers up to at least 250, please. The support's been unreal lately. We just want to get the ball rolling and get 2021 the year that we want it to be. It's February the 3rd, the time of this recording. Please, I just want to see us keep on growing, and by then, and I want you guys most importantly to enjoy this story, because my explanation isn't going to be the best definitive run without giving the whole game away, but I've kind of had to give a bit more spoilers because, it's part 2. Anyway, enjoy, stay pasty, bye bye now.